Oh, look at that. Another tick. Mosquitoes and ticks, the two things I hate about hunting. But the two things you have to deal with. I am headed out to the farm this morning to do a little late spring, early summer maintenance of the property that I have permission to hunt. It's about 45 acres of timber with some ag fields surrounding it. So as I've already mentioned multiple times on our social media platforms, I am very excited for the opportunity to hunt this property as well as just tend to it throughout the summer. So last year, Nicholas, David, and I really only hunted specifically public land, which is great. It's extremely rewarding, extremely challenging, and we actually had success, myself getting a doe, Nick got a buck, as well as David getting a buck. I knew that I needed to make a change for this year. One, because public land around me and where I live is really about an hour to whichever public area I decide to go to, and with a 1.5-year-old at home, makes it extremely challenging. I also knew that I was really missing the ability to what I'm gonna do today. Just go out to a property, care for it, tend to it, set and hang stands, clear lanes, do some smaller food plots. So I have the opportunity to do that now, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm realizing that this is one of those grocery store situations. And what I mean by that is you come home with multiple grocery bags and you're like, yeah, I can get them all in one trip. So you just load yourself up, rip every bag in the process, but you get it all inside. Well, I have so much stuff to take into the woods with me today, and I'm gonna have to admit defeat. I think I'm gonna have to make 2 trips. I hate to say it, but just for you guys, I'm gonna have to make 2 trips. So I'm gonna take the stand and my ladder sticks back, and I will come back for the camera. I'll come back for all the trimming equipment. That's the smart thing to do. See you guys in a bit. And I'm back. You know, I forgot to mention that it is extremely hot this morning. You know, if I wasn't so excited, I'd probably delay this till tomorrow or Monday. But boy, I was just too anxious to get out, so I'm gonna fight through it. I'm also gonna apologize in advance for the sweat show that I'm about to put on for you. I'm a sweater and it's hot, so you're about to see something special. You know, I love hunting because you can do it all year long. Not only is the hunting enjoyable for me, the scouting is enjoyable, the preparation is enjoyable. And whenever I get out here, I can really get in that focused mindset of, I'm here to think about hunting, I'm here to figure out deer patterns, so on and so forth. It never fails that I get an awesome text from my wife that really interrupts that train of thought. Not in a bad way, especially today. So we are trying to potty train our daughter, who's a 1.5 years. Last night, she peed in the toilet for the first time. This morning, apparently, she had a poop in the toilet for the first time. So, big things happening at the Muth household. So as I walk back here, I'm gonna try to give you guys a little bit of insight and overview to the farm property so that you have an understanding of where I'm hunting, why I'm hunting there, what the terrain looks like, what the layout is, so on and so forth. So here we go. Starting with a simple aerial overview of the property, and pay no mind to the white highlights. You know, I'm gonna give you guys a cookie here. I'm not gonna let you take the whole cookie jar. Adding in the yellow highlight to really show you the property boundaries that I'm working with. So this timber area is roughly 45 to 50 acres, obviously with the surrounding ag fields. The east side of the property has a hard boundary with a 10 to 15 foot wide creek running north and south through it. For this property, I really see this boundary as a positive, as it should help dissuade deer from crossing into the east field. I'll get into it more here in a little bit, but dissecting the property east-west, basically through the midpoint, is a very large swale that holds a lot of the rainwater and runoff from the adjacent farmland, from the adjacent ag fields. During my winter and early spring scouting, this swale was just tore up with deer trails. However, roughly around the beginning of April, this swale flooded out and really changed the landscape adjacent to it. I've really been able to do some heavy scouting on the north end of this property, really because it's where I first entered the property. So that's where I started scouting. There's a very heavily used trail that runs north and south, perpendicular branches. As you can see, I identified the trail that the deer use along the swale, and it also intersects that heavily used north-south route that I was talking about. Eventually, I plan on trying to locate a tree to set a stand on the north end of this property, but my main fear, and I'll get into a little bit with my access routes, is that the deer may be bedding on the north side of that property. So the last thing I want to do is try to get into a tree there and spook them out. So here we are with the added access routes that I've really used so far. As you can see, coming from the north is where I park. Walking straight south into that heavily used deer trail is how I first access this property. Like I mentioned, this access route is probably going to be my last option, knowing that there's going to be deer bedded and I don't want to spook them. So with that the case, I will likely walk around the north end of the property and come in from the west side as much as I can. And with that in mind, I decided to locate my clover plot on the west side of the property, really in that east-west deer trail that we had talked about. I'm actually happy that the swale flooded out when it did. Otherwise, I may have planted this clover in that floodplain of the swale. But with the swale flooding like it did, I was able to identify the extents of that flooding, and I pushed that clover plot to the south side of it just enough to get it out of that floodplain. The X's on the north and east side of the clover plot are two locations that I'm thinking about putting a stand. The north side is really where I initially thought would be the ideal area for it. It allows myself and the clover plot to be separated by this swale, so putting some distance between us, but really allows me to maintain a clear view of the clover plot at all times. The other positive is it allows me to maintain sight line on the swale out into that west ag field. One last thing to mention is that in this area of Columbus, it's typically a prevailing southwest wind. So staying on the north side is really going to help with the potential of getting winded by these deer. Changing tides a bit and headed to the south side of the property to try to give me some more detail as to how the deer move and travel on the south side. So from the limited scouting I've done on the south side, I've been able to identify really what appears to be the same trail that is used on the north side. It continues in that north-south pattern and then really cuts hard west and into the adjacent property. Additionally, there's another north-south deer trail on the west side of the property I have permission to hunt. So kind of at that intersection is where I'm thinking about setting a stand and setting my camera today. All right, we're back. I am just getting into the tree line now. So I'm going to pack up yet again, throw my stand on, grab my ladder sticks, head back to the clover plot, and we are going to find a tree that will be suitable for the fall. So, I forgot how much summertime scouting sucks. Once everything's green and full and plush, it's a pain in the ass to get back to the spots that you want to get to. But made it back to the clover plot. I think I'm gonna start calling it the oasis. I like that. It's really just this highlighted patch of green amongst a bunch of weeds, timber, trees, etc. So I like the oasis. Okay, made it back to the oasis. I think I found a couple trees, identified a couple trees that are gonna work for me. So now it's just a matter of determining which one I want to hang on that hawk stand. and it's still hot. All right. The mosquitoes are terrible. I am just getting eaten up out here. So I had a whole agenda for today that I wanted to get done, and I think the mosquitoes are gonna cut it short. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these ladder sticks up, get my stand set. I'm gonna save clearing any lanes for a later time, hopefully when it's a little bit cooler and the mosquitoes won't be such a big issue. And then I'll set a camera and get out of here. Okay, finally all set up here. Now I'm going to show you guys why I like this spot so much. So I'm going to turn you around here. Right down here over my left shoulder is the clover plot that we explored a little bit earlier. It's an easy 25-yard shot to the farthest side of that clover plot. So all I need to do is cut 1 or 2 lanes into it. Hopefully they stall up in the clover feeding a little bit and they get into another shooting lane if I can't get them in that first window. The cover up here is a huge factor as to why I chose this area. I have trees behind me, I have leaves behind me, a lot of different thicket that's going to break up my outline should a deer be traveling right below me and look up. So that's key. I always look for cover behind me, whether it's early or late season, making sure that you're accounting for when the leaves do fall off the tree. Down here over my right shoulder is the swale from the ag field on the west side of the property. This swale does stay pretty wet. It does flood out every now and then, which is why I kept my clover up high. However, there is a beaten down deer trail that cuts right through the swale and really goes from one side of the property to the other. So I wanted to make sure that I had a lane to the far edge of this swale, which as you can see I do. Another good reason as to why I wanted to be here is because that is probably going to be my main access point come season. So hopefully I can sneak around to this west side and really not spook anything out of their beds. I will say, no matter how much work goes into it, no matter how frustrated you get when you're setting your stands, once you have that stand set and you can actually just sit up here and take a breath and relax and look and survey and see what you're working with, you know, it's a feeling that just brings a calmness over me, and I love it. I love setting stands for that reason. You know, I'm probably going to hang out here for another 10-15 minutes and just enjoy what I'm looking at right now. We'll pick back up in a second. So I just left the clover plot, got the stand set. I did not get any lanes cut like I wanted to today. I have to come back in a couple weeks anyway. I want to get some mock scrapes in, get some licking vines in. So hopefully within the next week or two I can get that done, and when I come back to do that, I'll clear some lanes for the clover plot. I'm beat. Long morning and tough heat, but got a stand set, pretty pumped about that. Did I get everything done that I wanted to do, that I had on my agenda? No, but I feel like I always bite off more than I can chew. I feel like I'm so hot that I'm just talking nonsense at this point. But awesome morning, pumped I got my stand set. Clover's looking good, got my cellular cam set. Excited to see what comes on those photos across my phone. I'll be back in a couple weeks, clear some lanes, find another spot to put another hang on. We'll go from there. See you guys.